Nova loved maps. She loved the soft creases of old paper, the tiny pencil marks that looked like secrets, and the way a small brass compass could point a brave finger ahead. One evening, when the marshway was full of warm honey light and teal shadows, Nova sat on a mossy rock and opened a patchwork map she had found in her satchel. A small rectangle had been torn from one corner. When Nova tilted the paper, thin, wiggling lines seemed to move like reeds in a breeze. The map whispered of a hidden path, a way to read the land that she had not tried before. Her paws smelled faintly of ink, and her blue scarf brushed the damp stone as she folded the map gently. "We must try this." Pip the heron peered down from a reed. He liked to sketch the marshway from tall stems and had a careful, slow way of looking. He held a feathered pencil and a small pad. "Count the stones. Measure the shadows. Mark the sounds we hear." They set off. The moss under their feet felt like a soft green carpet, and the reeds made little talking sounds in the dusk. Nova carried her satchel close. Inside were pencils, a strip of stitched cloth, and the tiny compass that glinted when the last light touched it. Pip walked with long, careful steps and kept his pad ready. First came the stepping stones. A row of flat stones ran across a shallow stream. Nova counted them aloud. 1, 2, 3. Pip sketched each stone in little squares. When a stone rocked, they stopped and waited. Counting helped them notice which stones were steady and which were not. They marked a pebble with a soft pencil so they would remember. Next, they measured shadows with a stick. The sun was low, and the stick made a long, dark line on the ground. Nova held the stick straight, and Pip watched the shadow move. They walked until the shadow matched a short mark on the map. "This way." They stepped into cool teal under willow arches. A braided briar looped across their path. It was like a rope made of thorns and tiny leaves, braided by wind and time. Nova drew a slow breath. She and Pip could have pushed, but the briar would tangle their scarves and scratch their paws and wings. Instead, they untied the braid like a puzzle, careful and soft. Nova used a pencil to ease a stubborn twist, while Pip held a loose end steady with a feather. The briar was not mean, it simply needed gentle hands. When it opened, it left a small trail of green confetti. Then a fog came rolling over, cool and merry. It smelled of pond moss and felt like a blanket. The fog liked to rearrange footprints. Nova watched the map close, and the wiggling lines turned a little more lively. Pip drew faint footprints and wrote tiny notes. Warm air, frog song, pebble clink. When they followed the marks, their own footprints looked like new stories in the mist. Nova brightened. "We make the map with our steps." Farther along, a friendly badger sat beside a little wooden bridge. He wore a mossy hat and smiled when he saw them. "I was saving this plank, but I put it somewhere for safekeeping." The bridge had a missing plank, and it wobbled like a sleepy bird. Nova asked kindly, "Did you see where you left it?" The badger blinked and thought, then pointed with one paw. He had tucked the plank under a pile of leaves by a cattail. Together they found it, set it in place, and the bridge sighed with thanks. At last they reached Mirror Pond. The water lay quiet as a tabletop, holding the sky like a picture. Nova set the map on the ground, and the wiggling lines fluttered like the reeds. The map showed shapes: a curved willow, a long reed, a ring of stones. But the pond showed mirrors of the world, and some shapes looked backwards. Nova turned the compass slowly until it stopped. She folded one corner of the map so the river on the paper matched the river in the water. Pip held his sketchpad up like a small lamp and let a hush of light fall across the map. They counted, matched, and matched again. A willow on the map became a willow in the pond, not by where it grew, but by how its reflection met a ripple. Nova put a pencil dot where the reflection and the paper agreed. One by one, the map's dancing symbols steadied. The tiny compass glinted, and the map began to glow a faint, warm stitch of light. Nova's heart felt steady and brave. Then Nova saw it. A narrow stepping trail that only showed when the map and the pond matched. Tiny stones rose on the water like a dotted path. They looked small but firm. Nova checked her compass, folded the map so the edge lined with the pond's shine, and took a careful step. The stone held. Pip followed, counting each step under his breath and sketching the ripples the stones made. On the other side of the pond was a small clearing with low stones all around, each stone with a little print or a leaf beside it. Little signs were tied to twigs, and soft plants leaned close, as if listening. Some stones had numbers. Others had pictures of smells and sounds. Nova ran her fingers over crinkled paper left by other explorers and read a note that said, "Look slowly." Pip found a plant that labeled each leaf with a song it liked to hear. They spent the evening learning. Nova drew a new mark on her map, a tiny stitched square where the stepping stones began. Pip sketched a plant that hummed at dusk. They wrote down the sound of the badger's laugh, the way a briar unbraided, and how a fog changed footprints. The clearing felt like a school made by the marshway itself. As the honey light folded into night, Nova held her satchel and the map close. She smiled at Pip. "Maps are puzzles, made of tiny things you see, and kind hands that help." They walked home by moonlight, their steps small and sure. The map in Nova's satchel no longer seemed torn. It was full of new lines, their footsteps, notes, and sketches. Looking closely, asking for help, and writing down what you find can make learning an adventure. When you tune your eyes and your heart, the world gives you new paths to try.